How does our team escape from the freeze monster? My name is Sean Redmond. This is Sean's Take. And today my take is on Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, Episode 4, entitled Parallels and Interiors. Monarch is a Apple TV Plus original series starring Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell. And this is your spoiler warning. From this point forward, I'll assume you've seen Episode 4 and all episodes up to current, or you don't care if I spoil them. I will be using clips from the show, as is permitted under the fair use provision of the copyright law of 1976. So let's dig in. We don't have any time in the 1950s in this episode. We don't get to see them at all. We do flash back to 2014, and this whole episode takes place between 2014 and 2015. And what happens in 2014, we'll discuss first and then touch on a little bit later. 2014 is when Kentaro is having his art exhibit, his first ever art exhibit. And the art that they show us is a little strange. It's a big exhibit of faces, and the one changes a little bit. We see some more traditional art in his apartment. So that I assume there's more in this art gallery than this one exhibit that we stand in. But anyway, it's his art exhibit. And he goes outside to take a picture of the poster. It's got his name on it. And it's a cool moment for him. And he accidentally takes a picture of May, who happened to be walking past, and asks him to delete it. He's a little intrigued. And he starts talking to her. And to her credit, she says, are you hitting on me? And he says, I'm just, why don't you come inside? And she says, is there wine? And he says, how about whiskey? Do you like whiskey? And she says that she likes expensive whiskey. So he takes her to a hidden whiskey bar that he did the lighting for. And it's sort of a artsy and a cool looking whiskey bar. And the bartender knows and likes him. And everybody's getting along, and they have some expensive whiskey, and they go back to his apartment, which doubles as his studio. And May likes his art, wonders why that art's not in the show at the gallery. And one thing leads to another, and their relationship begins. And he does go to his art exhibit finally and leaves her there. And she gets a phone call, and she uses a flip phone. She doesn't use a smartphone. And he comments on it. He says, is that even a phone? And he types his phone number in. She gets a phone call, another mysterious phone call, and she speaks to the person and says, yeah, I'm traveling for business. I'll let you know when I'm back. And she hangs up. And I think that's important later, and I'll touch on that more. So that's really kind of it. So their relationship began sort of in a heated frenzy right at what he considered to be a pivotal moment of his life, which didn't end up working. A couple of things got sold during the exhibit, but he was dropped by the gallery. So that didn't work out. That's probably what led to May not working out with Kentaro, because it's only a year. It's not that long. But anyway, so that's where they started, and we got to see some of that and how quickly they sort of ignited. In 2015, we see an Airstream camper trailer in the middle of the Utah desert. And the person that turns out to be Dr. Barnes hears an alert. She digs up an ancient piece of equipment that is alerting her in her Airstream, and she plugs it in to see what it's reporting. And she calls into Monarch. Obviously, she's a Monarch listening post. And she reports that there's this huge disruption, like a pulsar, and it's happening in Alaska. And they said, okay, send us what you've got. She says, no, you have to understand, this is the biggest event like this since G-Day. Nothing's been this big since the last appearance event. And that sort of sends chills through everybody that Godzilla or another Titan is coming. So we get back to our team in Alaska that's running from the freeze monster, and they duck into a cave, and the rocks sort of shield their body heat from. And as it's stomping away or towards them, the ground shifts. Most of them are standing on rock, but it turns out that May is standing on ice, and the vibration shatters the ice, and she falls into knee-deep water. So the bottom of her legs get soaked in freezing water. The monster moves on, but May knows she's in trouble. You can't be out in the frozen tundra soaking wet and live long. So May begins to panic a little. Kentaro says, I saw a building on our way in. We need to go that way. And without any other real options, they all start to go that way. But then Kate sees light shooting up, or, well, light. And Lee says, well, we can all see that. And Kentaro says, no, I'm going to the building I know is there. And Lee says, go, find help, come back and save us. We'll do the same thing. Whoever finds help first wins. So they split up, which is probably the worst thing you can ever do, especially in a monster movie. So they split up. And Lee, May, and Kate head towards the light, and Kentaro heads where he thought he saw a building. As the evening and night comes on, it gets colder and colder. May struggles and more, but so does Kentaro. He's alone. His only water froze. He has nothing to drink to hydrate, and he starts to succumb to conditions. He hears things. At first, he hopes is May. He's not sure, and we end up seeing him collapse on the ground. Never a good thing in the snowstorm. As he's laying there, he begins to hallucinate that May is laying next to him with a light that she's holding, and that flashes him back to that day they met, and they were in his apartment, and she was holding a light that he made, an artistic light that shone this blue, sort of light, pretty, and she says it's beautiful. And May, freezing to death in 2015, also says it's beautiful. So it's a little bit like Kentaro and May are connected in this space in 2015 Arctic, and they're both touching back to 2014, the same memories at roughly the same time. It's kind of neat. And we do find out Kurt Russell's character, Lee Shaw, says these titans have a strange effect on their surroundings. And we find out that they have walked in a circle and ended up at the tent. That following the lights took them back to the tent. And so they put May in the tent. They use what they can to light a fire. Kurt Russell does say her pants are now dry, which should be good news, but she's also, she has probably the beginnings of hypothermia. So if you're enjoying this video, consider hitting the like button. I would appreciate it. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you like several of these videos or this show, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of our content. So we have a moment where May is talking to Kate and says that if anything happens, Kate should contact May's sister, Lyra, and she'll give her the phone number. And Kate says, don't worry about it. I'm sure Kentaro has it. And she says, no, he doesn't know anything. She's the only person I can contact. If anything happens to me, you have to contact her. And if you have to ditch me, ditch him too. Get yourself out. So May tells Kate that when it's not the three of them, and it's just Kate and Lee, that Kate should leave Lee and get out as best she can. So this is, I just want to take the second and talk about Lyra. So Lyra could be really her sister, be the person that she's talking to on the phone, both in 2014 in Kentaro's apartment and on the barge when she talks on the phone cryptically and then throws the phone into the ocean. That could be her sister, and she's keeping in touch with her sister. It also occurs to me that could be her quote-unquote handler for whatever it is, computer shit that she does, and she would need somebody to get word that she's dead. And if Kate calls and says, I'm looking for Lyra, then her handler would know that May is dead and her mission is over. Not sure which one of those that is. So the monster, the Titan, shows up again, and they start to run towards where they hid the last time. But Lee Shaw notices that the monster goes after the fire and ignores them. So now he gets it, and he forms a plan pretty quick. We cut to an address to all of Monarch, it looks like, and they're trying to decide what to do about Dr. Barnes's information, and they begin to argue about whether the Titans are attacking or what there is or how we should react. And Tim interrupts, and he must have been around for a long time, but he says some, I'm the one you avoid in the break room. I'm the troll from the basement. But he does have the great line that says, for a bunch of people that signed up to track atomic-powered monsters, I thought you would be more open-minded. And that's where we leave it with that whole meeting. And that's a pretty good line. I did like that line. So we see Kentaro freezing, and then he hears his father's voice. And that brings him to his feet. And then he sees his father walking towards him, and not through him, but bumping past him. And he's talking to his father, and his father disappears into the storm, into the snow. And he looks at the ground, and there's no footprints, but there is pencil shavings. And he follows in the direction that his hallucinated father went, and there's pencil shavings going that way, so he follows. He heads that way. It leads him to a building, and he is somewhat hallucinating, somewhat not. And he sees the building as the art gallery from 2014, where he had his show. And then it becomes, it's cutting between the gallery and the building in Alaska, and him walking into the building in Alaska or walking down the hall of the gallery until it resolves to really be the one in Alaska. And he finds that there's a radio there and on. It's working. And he sees the pile of pencil shaving for real in this place. So he picks up the microphone, the squawky, and we cut back to Kurt Russell gathering the fuel bladders from the airplanes and making a funeral pyre for the dead body, knows that the Titan will go after the heat to give them a way out. Then we hear the chopper. There's an incoming chopper, and the Titan shows up. And the girls are running towards the chopper. Lee Shaw grabs a Mylar blanket, sparks the igniter. It lights off the fuel. Lee Shaw gets thrown. The chopper comes in. Lee Shaw recovers. Everybody runs for the choppers. They get on as the freeze monster comes after them to get them, and they get away just in the nick of time. In the chopper is Kentaro. The radio worked. He was able to call for help. The Coast Guard or Air National Guard, whoever these Red Cross is, came and got him. So May's being treated. She's going to live. Kurt Russell realizes that May's computer was destroyed by the freeze monster. So they threw the tapes into the China Sea. They lost the laptop, so all of the files are gone. They land, the door opens, and Tim and Barnes are standing there. And Tim says, "Hello, Colonel Shaw. I've been looking forward to meeting you." And that's where the episode ends. So a couple of takeaways from this episode, or things to think about or wonder about, or where we are in the scheme of things. Can't decide whether or not I think it's really May's sister on the phone, or if May is caught up in something bigger than herself, and that's her handler. I'm not sure. What do you think? Tell me in the comments whether you think that's really a sister, or if you think it's Monarch related, or if you think she's just a computer hacker and we're gonna learn something else. So I believe we have been led to believe that Hiroshi, Kentaro and Kate's dad, is alive. He's just one step ahead of them. I mean, do you think so too? I think so. I think he's alive. We're going to have to sort that out by the end of the season. Again, tell me what you're thinking in the comments. Let's have a conversation about this show. It's really getting interesting the way they're doing it. And what do you think the name of the episode meant? Parallels and Insights. That was the name of his art show, but it's also the name of this episode. Parallels and Insights. The mother, his mother, reading the poster, said, it gives you a new way of perceiving yourself. But what is parallels? Are we paralleling what? What are we paralleling? So I like this episode. I think it's moving along quite quickly and well. We don't have a lot of useless storyline fragments to deal with. We're just sort of moving straight ahead. So let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're watching. I look forward to talking to you in the comments. But for now, that's it for me. I'm Sean. This is Sean's Take. See you next time.